Latinx.
That's it. That's the opening soundbite. It's Joe Biden saying Latinx. They're not just an ethnic group. They're also a bathroom tissue. I got to tell you, it's not really a good day for the Latinx in America. Seems like every time I turn on the news, it's another Latinx-connected crime story. It's always a crime story. It's never, hey, I just won the Olympics skiing, snowboarding, something like that. It's not that. It's 16-year-old shot in a high school in Montgomery County, and stories like that. Hey, that body found 2 years ago. We've arrested, Rafael Villalobos. I just made that name up, but it's pretty close. Well, a very happy Wednesday to you, a very happy hump day to you, and welcome back once again. We have our cup runneth over once again because so much madness going on in the world, and we've got some of it for you. We couldn't possibly gather up all of it because there are too many Democrats on the loose, out of their cages. You know, we've got a lot of nutty stuff going on. Do you follow the news in Canada at all? You familiar with Canada? It's America's largest national park, Canada, and it's America's hat. If you ever looked at the map of the world, you see that America has a big hat, and its name is Canada. That's what we call it. It's a big hat, and I've got a big story out of Canada, and it's not a happy story, but there's an element to it that I look forward to sharing with you. Also, if you follow the news at all, unlike Carlos, see, there's another guy, Carlos in Arizona, who was interviewed by a number of media organizations after being interviewed by the FBI yesterday because apparently his mother-in-law thinks that he looks a lot like the guy in the video with the ski mask on and covering up the doorbell camera at Nancy Guthrie's house on the night that she disappeared. And Carlos, he was talked to by the police. I've got Carlos for you because he did speak to a number of news organizations. And they, CNN, it must be a big story because CNN sent Jake Tapper down there. Do you think Monica Lewinsky went with him? Because, you know, he's only famous because he went on a date with Monica Lewinsky many years ago. Jake Tapper did, and that launched his political career. I mean, his journalism career, because he'd already had a political career working for a Democrat member of Congress on Capitol Hill. And this Democrat member of Congress on Capitol Hill whose son married Chelsea Clinton because apparently someone had to. And that's just wacky. But we got, and also her husband went to prison for being a corrupt Democrat member of the House of Representatives, too. But in any event, they sent Jake Tapper down there to go talk to people. And he ran into a reporter, and he says, hey, you cover nothing but immigration. Oh, really? Is that really? I'm a news guy in Texas, and all I do is cover, you mean illegal immigration, illegal alien gang members and all that stuff. But I got a little bit of Jake Tapper for you because, but there were a lot of developments, if you can call them that, yesterday afternoon and last night, late into the night, out of Arizona with the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie. And it is a person detained for questioning in connection with Nancy Guthrie's abduction. And with the new video that we got yesterday, it does look more like an abduction by perhaps a random stranger with a Spanish language accent, and his name is Carlos, and I've got that coming up. Delivery driver detained in Nancy Guthrie abduction investigation, released after several hours. That's an early release, a quick release. They got that release thing going on. It's much less stressful that way. Man detained in Nancy Guthrie disappearance speaks out moments after he's released. I am innocent. See, I'm just doing a little effect there for your enjoyment and information. I am innocent. I'm innocent, he said. Police search Arizona home of person detained in connection to Nancy Guthrie's disappearance. And I would say in connection with, not in connection to, but that's just a grammatical thing. Woman reveals police raided her home, believing Nancy Guthrie was inside after arresting her son-in-law. And was it the mother-in-law that blew the whistle on him? And is he really innocent, or is he? Because he kind of looks like the guy. Am I right? In the video, he got the kind of tweezed, ladylike eyebrows and funny-looking mustache and all that. He looks a lot like the guy. You can see why someone might think it was the guy. But we'll get to that, because there are updates and there are things happening. It's all a buzz. And we're still in the FBI was very much around the home of Annie Guthrie, the daughter that lives 4 miles from Mom's house. And let's not count that out just yet, because we got that. Also, we have a header today on President Donald John Trump and crime. And there are a couple of, there were some funny headlines. Violent crime falls across major U.S. cities. Now, that's a good headline, that crime falls, because that's good. And one of the headlines says, despite Trump claiming that crime has dropped, crime has actually dropped. And here's the headline from the left-wingers at Axios. Crime plunges in major cities despite Trump's crackdown rhetoric. Now, wait a minute. I don't think they know the meaning of the word despite. This is the people at Axios. Pretty amazing story. I've got to say, wait a minute, crime plunges in major cities. That's good news, right? Despite, that means in spite of Trump's crackdown rhetoric. So President Trump cracking down on crime, and illegal alien crime, of which there is a great deal, because illegal aliens start by breaking our immigration laws and violating our sovereignty, and then the Democrats give them a gift basket and they hand over their daughters to the illegal alien gang members, because they think that way they'll learn things real quick. But I just love this Axios headline, crime plunges in major cities despite Trump's crackdown rhetoric. What does rhetoric have to do with? But it's despite, that's Trump derangement syndrome in a headline right there. And that's a kind of a gift to the, what's the old saying that your grandparents used to say? It's impossible to hate the media enough, I think, is the old saying that your grandparents probably said. Isn't that amazing? Oh, and also, yeah, speaking of the Carlos and the having Spanish accents and all that good stuff, there's nothing wrong with that. I was listening to the news on WMAL radio, driving in my automobile yesterday. I believe that I was heading down to Newsmax for my second job of the day, and I was listening to the news on the radio on WMAL, and I heard two stories in one news break, and I said, oh, isn't that interesting? That's kind of, maybe I should mention that to Michael Piercy, and so I did. I texted him at the next stoplight. Man arrested nearly 2 years after body found floating in Maryland Creek. There are a lot of creeks in Maryland, but not usually a lot of bodies floating in them, especially out of Gaithersburg, Maryland. A 22-year-old man faces charges, which is appropriate, nearly 2 years after a body was found in a Germantown, Maryland creek. Franklin Villalobos Gomez was arrested Tuesday by Montgomery County Police, and that's a good thing. The arrest comes after the body of Jose Israel Santano. So wait a minute, Jose Israel Santano. Oh, wait, I'm not done. It's Jose Israel Santano Velasquez, because they got a lot. My name has 2 syllables. I'm Chris Plant. Jose has 2 syllables. Then you get Jose Israel, 3 more. Santano, 3 more. Velasquez, 3 more. That's a lot of syllables. Jose Israel Santano Velasquez was found in a creek, floating apparently, in the area of Black Rock Road. Black Rock, that's not the investment firm. And Seneca Creek Trail, July of 2023. The 45-year-old had suffered multiple injuries, and his death was ruled a homicide. Detectives determined Villalobos Gomez was a suspect and obtained an arrest warrant on Sunday. The street gang unit made the arrests. See, well, wait a minute. We got a street gang unit in Montgomery County, Maryland. because they found the dead body of Jose Israel Santana Velasquez floating in the river, and now they've arrested Mr. Villalobos Gomez. And that's because Maryland, is a border state. It's not a border county. It's not a border state. It's nothing of the kind. Also, so I was listening to that news break, and then they said, oh, yeah, the parents and school leaders meet after student injured in shooting at Wootton High School. This is back to Montgomery County, Maryland now, back to Rockville, Maryland. There is now a second victim in yesterday's Wootton High School shooting. Police said on Tuesday that the suspect had the gun outside the school sometime before shooting a fellow student. Well, naturally, you'd have the gun before you shoot the fellow student, but parents and school leaders met on Tuesday to discuss the shocking incident. And then they explained at 2:15 p.m. on Monday, several law enforcement agents responded to Wootton High School for a reported shooting. When they arrived, they found a 16-year-old boy lying in a hallway with a gunshot wound. Sure, because that's perfectly normal. And then a short time later, police nabbed a gunman who was also 16 years old, Khalil White Viatoro, and he was taken into custody. Sí, bueno, muy bueno, muy bueno. So we got, here we had Montgomery County, which until a minute ago was one of the whitest counties in the United States of America, one of the wealthiest counties in the United States of America, some of the best schools in the United States of America. Now it's known for gunshot wounds in high school hallways and illegal aliens because they're a sanctuary county, aren't they? And Maryland is a sanctuary state, and they love illegal alien gang members, so they wave them in, and then as a result, you have more shootings and you have more. Again, it's not racist to notice that this is the reality of the world that we're living in. So Khalil, why is he named Khalil? Khalil Viatoro. So like jihadi, it's the Red-Green Alliance again, per heck. They acted without hesitation, first arriving officers from all three police agencies, without due regard to their own safety, entered the school. That's good. And they used their training based on their active shooter protocol. They did not wait in the parking lot. They're making fun of certain people in Texas, I think. They did not wait for backup, said Police Chief Jason West and the Rockville City Police Department. And that's good. And they went right in. And they got this guy, the polymer, it's kind of a ghost gun, 80 point, it's a 9mm handgun. And it's a ghost gun. It's a ghost gun, meaning it did not have traceable serial number. Well, wait a minute. You're telling me that the gunman here went into a high school and shot a 16-year-old, and he's a 16-year-old himself, that the gun was also illegal? The Democrats might become angry about that, but maybe not. But Khalil Viatoro has been taken into custody, and that's and this is what the Democrats are making the country better. And if you point it out, you're a racist. If you notice it, you're a racist. But the Democrats, they wave all the gang members in and the illegal aliens by the millions and millions. And then when you say, hey, a lot of these illegal aliens are shooting people and killing people and raping and robbing and doing all this stuff, and a lot of gang members, and the Democrats scream, you're a racist, and then they run in front of speeding police cars, and when they get hit, they blame the police. The Democrat Party is not well at all. Oh, yeah, by the way, the guy at this that shot the 16-year-old was also waving the gun around at a high school girl earlier the same day, but they didn't arrest him for that. They said, let's wait and see if he actually shoots anybody, which is the Democrat rule. Well, he hasn't committed any violent crimes. We were talking about it yesterday. The Democrats say, and it was CBS News night before last, only, 14%, 17% of the illegals being arrested and deported have already been convicted of violent crimes. But they don't count drug trafficking and child porn, and those aren't violent crimes, according to the Democrats. So they let everybody go, and hey, what's the worst that could happen? What could go wrong? So we've got that. Also, the Democrat Party on Capitol Hill today, they had the ICE chief, and they demonstrated their level of mental illness. They're truly demented. Democrats in Congress, very unwell. And the FBI has substantiated what they're calling irregularities in the Georgia 2020 presidential election vote counts. Now they're looking into whether they're intentional. Yeah, they might have been accidental. Also, do you know people that smoke pot? Because the New York Times has a story on this. And do you know people that drink alcohol? Do you know people that smoke pot? Let me tell you which is more likely coming up. All right, those very silly Democrats. We got a lot. And when you hear this New York Times story about people smoking pot in the United States, it may be. You may respond in a half dozen different ways. I can think of off the top of my head. Let's go to the telephones. Let's go to Greg calling from Rockville, Maryland. We were just talking about Rockville, Maryland, weren't we? Gregory, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Hey, Chris. Good morning.
Hey, man. How are you?
Thanks for taking my call.
You betcha.
Hey, just good. I just wanted to call in and say appreciate you bringing up that local story. We've had 2 shootings, unfortunately, in recent years, including this one in high schools in Montgomery County. That was just never the case. I've grown up in the county. We had a school resource officer, a police officer program that was very successful, strong prevention measure. School police officer was assigned to basically every school. And after George Floyd and the kind of national hubbub, the Democrats in Montgomery County on the Montgomery County Council and our county executive decided to squash that out of, so-called equity and social justice. There was the shooting at Magruder High School, which was a couple of years ago, where nobody responded. There was no officer that responded for many minutes, and there used to be, like I said, an SRO assigned to the school. After that hubbub, they kind of went partially back to the SRO model, but it just shows like these Democrats don't understand like prevention measures. They don't understand like basic controls and like why like security matters. Obviously security matters at the Super Bowl, so why wouldn't it matter at a school, where we have children, our young people trying to, just learn, get away from these kind of savages and these individuals who, for whatever reason have to lash out in violence. But even these people who have this violent proclivity, they know when there's a school resource officer that they're going to think twice about doing it, at least on the school campus.
Right.
So I just wanted to give you that background and appreciate everything you're talking about. Carry on. Thanks so much.
A nice use of the English language, and I particularly enjoyed the use of the word hubbub. Hubbub was good. And you're right about that, because we looked it up this morning, too. They replaced the school resource officers with what they call community engagement officers. And then they naturally abbreviate it as CEOs. And then they have no respect for that, because the Democrats shoot CEOs on the sidewalks of New York and they murder them. And then the murderers become heroes because the Democrat Party is a death cult, because they're not liberals, they're the left. Great stuff, Greg. Thanks for the call. Sort of how I feel about doing radio. Radio for me is not work, and it's hanging out with friends and talking about stuff, as you might do under any circumstance. A pleasure it is every day. Fun, I tell you. Crazy. Those wacky Democrats. Yes, speaking, this is Olney. Olney. This is in Maryland, too. That's not in Montgomery County, though. Is Olney in Montgomery County? You think Olney is in Montgomery? Montgomery County's Olney's in Montgomery County? Okay, I don't know anything about suburbs. I get afraid when I leave the district, which I know is ridiculous, but nevertheless, and notwithstanding, in another story out of Olney, there's a synagogue there on Georgia Avenue. And it's, I think, Sharei Tefillah as the name of the synagogue, and it was vandalized by Democrats. Police say be on the lookout for Democrats because they're all Nazis, like anti-Semites, fascists, goose-stepping, armband wearing, Jew-hating, And here is the spray paint, the blue spray paint on the stone plaque at the entrance to the synagogue on Georgia Avenue in Montgomery County. And what do they spray paint? They see the Democrats, they hate everybody, and they're violently, criminally insane, mentally disturbed. We got one out of Canada, too. They have kind of their version of Democrats in Canada, too, but I've got that coming up. So they spray painted vandalism on the the entrance to the synagogue, AZAB with a swastika. Then they spray painted a swastika, AZAB. Now, you have to decode this because the Democrat mental illness is sometimes in code. And you may be aware of the Democrats hating cops because they love crime, and most of them are criminals. So they look forward to prison, I think, the average Democrat. And Democrat mothers raise their sons, well, get prepared for prison, honey, because that's where you're heading. But the ACAB is commonly found graffiti around Washington, D.C., and actually all over the country, because the Democrats, they spray paint ACAB. And in case you don't crack the code, Jasmine, do you know ACAB? Yeah, okay. All cops are bastards, right? All cops are bastards, ACAB. So when we saw the graffiti today, AZAB with a spray-painted swastika, obviously now you know the code, and it is all Zionists are bastards, see? Because the Jews from the river to the sea, Hamas will be free, and they need to kill all the Jews, just like the fascists that they are. You know, the fascists of yesteryear, they're carrying on the traditions of, a lie told once remains a lie told 1,000 times becomes the truth. And the Zionists, all Zionists are bastards, and they must be destroyed. So Montgomery County Police are looking into an act of vandalism at Sharei Tefillah Synagogue in Olney, which is in Montgomery County, Maryland. Police tell 7 News that officers responded Tuesday morning, February 10th, around 8 a.m., after reports of anti-Semitic graffiti at the 16600 block of Georgia Avenue. I think addresses should be a maximum of 4 numbers, don't you think? I think 5-number addresses, that's too many. That means your road is too long. You should change it. But there it is. Multiple signs they spray painted, you see, on multiple signs at the front of the synagogue. Photos obtained by 7 News. They didn't go there themselves. They had somebody else send them photos. Show the letters AZAB and a swastika among the vandalism with spray paint. Police are canvassing the neighborhood and reviewing surveillance footage. It's like the kidnapping in Arizona, to identify those responsible. Police say they're looking for Democrats, and they've also increased patrols in the area. I just added the looking for Democrats part. Montgomery County Police take incidents like this very seriously, and the 4th District is increasing patrols in the area to ensure safety and security of the community, the agency said. Maryland lawmakers also took to social media to react to the incident. Senator Chris Van Hollen said, they're right. All Zionists are bastards. And he didn't really say that. He just went with a wife-beating MS-13 gang member to hang out and have margaritas, because Chris Van Hollen is the guy that flew to Central America to hang out with gang members. So here they are, Democrats terrorizing the Jews again, while they call everybody fascists and they call everybody Nazis. And the big banner in front of the synagogue, they spray painted with the blue spray paint can, AZAB, all Zionists are bastards. And then they spray painted with black spray paint, genocide. And apparently they're calling for genocide of the Jews, because this is what liberalism has become. And of course, the National German Socialist Workers' Party, the Socialist Workers' Party of Germany, that was the Nazi party, and they called themselves the Socialist Workers' Party of Germany. And the Democrat Party, they've got the Democratic Socialist Party and the Farmers Socialist, all these socialist parties, because they are the socialists. And let's not forget the lessons learned in the 20th century, even though the Democrat Party has. So we've got that, and that's what Democrats do. They terrorize the Jews, and they call everybody Nazis and fascists, and then they go spray paint a synagogue and firebomb a Jewish governor's house and firebomb a pro-Israel march, and they chant from the river to the sea at George Washington University in Washington, D.C., and project from the river to the sea on the side of the library building at George Washington University in light, and they terrorize the Jewish students at universities in New York City. And they're Democrats. They're the left. And I know we say the Nazis are the right, but they do everything that the left does in the United States today, and they call themselves the Socialist Workers' Party. Just saying. And by the way, the USSR, also the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, they also terrorized and murdered Jews by the millions and enslaved and all that stuff. But the Democrat Party, no problem there. That's good. So here, as I mentioned a couple of minutes ago, the story in the New York Times, which we discovered yesterday just as we were wrapping up the big radio broadcast. The New York Times warns America, right? See, the New York Times warns America, it has a weed problem. And this is the left-wing gang at Mediaite. Very, very left-wing. I think on weekends they might terrorize the Jews. Even their Jews terrorize the Jews. Have you noticed that? It's pretty crazy, Democrat Party. But we've got this, and people at Mediaite, they picked up because they probably don't pay for the subscription to the New York Times. I don't either, but we have our ways. So the headline at Mediaite, left-wing Mediaite, quote, time to acknowledge reality, end quote, colon. They definitely love their colons there. The New York Times warns America has a, quote, marijuana problem, end quote. Now, the New York Times argued that it was time to acknowledge reality and admit that the United States has a marijuana problem in a new editorial, admitting, they like the word admitting, that the legalization of weed in most states has had a wide variety of adverse consequences. Now, let me go because we do have the New York Times story here. Let me go to it. And their headline, it's in their opinion section. It's time for America to admit that it has a marijuana problem. 13 years ago, they write, no state allowed marijuana for recreational purposes. Today, most Americans live in a state that allows them to buy and smoke a joint. See, there you go. President Trump continued the trend toward legalization in December by loosening federal restrictions, which the Democrats said demanded that Barack Obama do for 8 years and he didn't do, demanded that Joe Biden do for 4 years and he didn't do, because they were too stoned. They kept forgetting. The editorial board, they say, this editorial board has long supported marijuana legalization. In 2014, we published a 6-part series, very significant, they probably won an award, that compared the federal marijuana ban to alcohol prohibition and argued for repeal. Much of what we wrote then holds up, but not all of it does, the New York Times reports. At the time, supporters of legalization predicted that it would bring few downsides. In our editorial, we described marijuana addiction and dependence as, quote, relatively minor problems. And they continued from there. Many advocates went further and claimed that marijuana was a harmless drug that might even bring net health benefits. They also said that legalization might not lead to greater use. This is the New York Times now. And this is where here's where the meat is. It's now clear, the New York Times reports, it is now clear that many of these predictions were wrong. Wait a minute, the New York Times was wrong in everything they said about everything ever? I think so. Legalization has led to much more use. Surveys suggest that about 18 million people in the United States have used marijuana almost daily, or about 5 times a week in recent years. Now listen to this, 18 million daily use. That was up from around 6 million in 2012 and less than 1 million in 1992. Now 18 million a day. And everything the Democrats say is a lie. And they're wrong. Even the things they're not lying about, they're wrong about. Even when they don't know that what they're saying is not true, what they're saying is just wrong. It's Ronald Reagan said many years ago so correctly. It's not that Democrats don't know anything. It's just that so much of what they know is wrong. And Ronald Reagan was dead right again on that one. So we went from 1 million people, less than 1 million people, using pot daily in 1992 to around 6 million in 2012. And now in 2026, 2025 really, 18 million. But listen to this. This is the one that got my attention yesterday. And Michael Piercy pointed it out, and I said, no. And I looked at it. So listen to this. We went from 1 million daily pot users 1992 to 18 million daily pot users today. Legalization had no effect at all, right? Listen to this. More Americans now use marijuana daily than alcohol. What? That's what I said yesterday. Something just like that. What? You got to be kidding me. Now more. I think everybody has one drink a day or almost, and now more Americans, 18 million, use marijuana every day than alcohol every day. Isn't that fascinating? Yes, sir. This wider use, the New York Times says, has caused a rise in addiction and other problems. Each year, nearly 2.8 million people in the United States suffer, listen to this, cannabinoid, I like this, it's cannabinoid hyperemesis. Is that a hyperemesis? I think it's hyperemesis. Why not? It's hyperemesis because cannabinoid hyperemesis, it's a syndrome that you can get. And now 2.8 million people a year in the United States suffer from cannabinoid hyperemesis syndrome, which causes severe vomiting and stomach pain. Maybe they're smoking the wrong thing. More people have also ended up in hospitals with marijuana-leaked paranoia and chronic psychotic disorders. Well, that's just membership in the Democrat Party. That might have nothing to do with pot, really, because, the chronic psychosis disorders, we see that all day, every day in the streets of Washington. Bystanders have also been hurt, including by people driving under the influence of pot. America should not go back to prohibition to fix these problems. This is fully schizophrenic by the New York Times. Well, you just said it's so terrible. It's led to all these awful things, but we shouldn't change a thing. But let's not change a thing. The war on marijuana brought its own costs. Every year, authorities arrested hundreds of thousands of Americans for marijuana possession. The people who suffered the legal and financial consequences were, it's the New York Times, were disproportionately Black, Latino, and poor. I'm really tired of Black and Latino people being poor. I think Black and Latino people should make more money, so the New York Times can't say that anymore. Just work harder, work more, be less poor. Then the New York Times can't say that about you. And they're disproportionately, the people suffered because they're arresting people, disproportionately Black and Latino. That might be because people that smoke pot are disproportionately Black and Latino. What do you think? And maybe Whitey, stays at home to smoke pot or something. I remember Sarah Palin, when she was running with John McCain all those many, many years ago, saying, I don't care if somebody sits at home and smokes a joint at night, and that she was supposed to be this terrible right-wing, awful, the Democrat Party said, awful person. And then Alaska, of course, they're known for marijuana and growing marijuana and smoking marijuana and all that stuff. But in any case, the New York Times says, it's really terrible. It's led to all kinds of terrible consequences, and we shouldn't change a thing. But then they complain that it's racist because people arrested are disproportionately Black, Latino, and poor. Aren't poor people disproportionately Black and Latino? So wouldn't that, statistically marry up with, of course it would. And then you're smoking pot and you get arrested because you're smoking pot. Smoke pot discreetly, That's like normal people. Pretty crazy stuff. We were talking about this at Newsmax yesterday, too. And I got to say, personally, I know a great many people that smoke pot, truth be told. A great many people. And we were talking about it yesterday at Newsmax, and a lot of people are like, what? It's like, well, yeah, you don't know a lot of people that smoke pot? Maybe you do, and you're just not aware of it. I don't know. We're at 888-630-9625. It's also Mailbag Day here on the Chris Plant Show on the radio across the nation.
I smell some weed. Someone is smoking. Someone is smoking.
The Democrat Party, they're making everything better. Illegal alien gang members everywhere. shooting up schools. I've got to update you on because there's crazy stuff going on in Texas today too, and I have a big update for you. Out of El Paso, Texas, where the El Paso airport and the airspace around El Paso, Texas, very, very close to the Mexican border, shut down for 10 days. Shut down. Did you see this story? Shut down for 10 days. All air traffic in and out of the El Paso, Texas airport, and the airspace shut down. And hang on a second, because we learned that this morning, and I was like, well, this hasn't happened since September 11th, 2001, shutting down airspace for 10 days. And they said it's a security threat, Now, I have an update for you. The Trump administration reveals Mexican cartel drones sparked the El Paso airspace shutdown. And what happened then? Well, there's an update because Trump administration official revealed that the temporary closure of airspace over El Paso, Texas, late Tuesday, was due to the presence of Mexican cartel drones that have since been, quote, disabled, end quote, by the military. The official told NBC fake news journalist Garrett Haake, I think it's Hackey, H-A-A-K-E, but I like Hack. I'm going to call him Hack, that the cause of disruption on Wednesday morning after the drones reportedly breached the airspace. So wait a minute, Mexican cartel drones that they're operating, crossing the border into the United States and American airspace, caused us to shut down an American airport and announced that it would be shut down for 10 days. It is a world at war, and the U.S. military was called in to, quote-unquote, disable, maybe shoot down.